Hey everyone. I wanted to talk with you about something that sounds really boring, but is a really good technique to use in your writing, and that's looking at your sentence structure, how you structure your sentences and how you use them in your story. Because I've learned there's some things you should do. Whoops, there we go. And when I first started writing, I've gone back and looked at my first four books, which were, you can no longer find them anywhere or get them online because they are truly terrible. And they're written really poorly, and the sentence structure is awful. And that makes the books read funny, and it's not comfortable to read, and it's repetitive, and there's a ton of problems with it. And since writing a number of books, I've started to learn. I'm on book number 24 right now, and I've started to learn a lot of things that you can do to make the sentence structure a useful tool to increase your tension in your story. So I want to share with you some of the things that I've learned from over the years about sentence structure. And to start with that, first I'm going to put an example sentence on the, and let me say before I show you the example sentence, this is something I see in a lot of young writers' stories that send them to me to be posted on my website. They have a lot of challenges with sentence structure, and I was reading through a couple of them this morning that I received from some people. One of them from, what country were they from? I think they were from Spain, maybe. I wanted to help the young writers out there about this, and hopefully some teachers can use this with their classes and help their students as well. So anyway, and for no further ado, let me put up the sample sentence. There. Okay. He went to the store. He bought a box of Cheerios. He opened the box. He ate the Cheerios. He went home. Stunning, right? That's some good writing. Wow. No, that's not good writing. And when you look at these sentences, here, let me move it down. There, okay. When you look at these sentences, you see he, and then verb, and then something. So it's a pronoun, a verb, and then a noun or a location or something. He went home. He ate Cheerios. He opened the box. These all have the same sentence structure. They all have the same rhythm to them. So rhythmically, it's repetitive, and that's going to be distracting to your reader. And whenever you distract the reader, you give them a reason to disengage from your writing and think about something else. And whenever you do that, you run the risk of them putting down your story. Now, not only is there problems with the repetitiveness of the sentence structure, you also notice the word he. There's a lot of echoing there, and echoing is not good. And if you watched my video on echoing and character names, you can see that when I choose a character name, I make sure I can choose it in such a way that I can call the character other things other than their name. And here, it's not a good choices there. We need to know who the character is too. But that echoing is a problem, and you want to limit that echoing as much as possible. So now, and also, there's the other thing of there's an alliteration in the second sentence. He bought a box of Cheerios. So bought a box, that's an alliteration. You have two words that start with the same letter close together. Sometimes you do that on purpose, and it's a good thing. In this case, bought a box is distracting. Almost sounds like a line from a poem, right? Bought a box, bought a box. And so I try to avoid alliterations unless I'm trying to draw the reader's attention to something. Like if I wanted to have them notice Game Night Sword, I might say it's steely sharp. And so you got two S's right there. That's not a good example because one's an SH. But you'd want to do something like that if you want to draw attention to it. In this case, it's distracting. And so you'd want to fix bought a box and change those words somehow. So let me show you how we fix it. And so you see the sentence there at the bottom. And let's combine some of the sentences. So let me put the corrected one above that one. Let's see, I'll put it there. Okay. And so you see it says, he went to the store and purchased a box of Cheerios. So we combined those first two sentences together, made a compound sentence. We got rid of the bought and replaced it with purchased, so we eliminated that alliteration. But the second half, he opened the box, he ate Cheerios, he went home. That's all still clunky, still there. So we need to fix that. So let me fix it a little more. We'll do a little more combining, and boop, there. He went to the store and purchased a box of Cheerios. I like that. He opened the box on the way home. There we connected those two sentences together. He ate the Cheerios. Okay, the last sentence is kind of terrible. But we got 2/3 of it done. We got a compound sentence and another more complex sentence. He opened the box on the way home. And now let's combine it some more. Ready? Boop. So now we have some more connectivity. He went to the store and opened the box of Cheerios. Oops, I'm sorry. He went to the store and purchased the box of Cheerios. He opened the box and ate them on the way home. So I've combined the last 3 sentences into one. This reads much better. Rhythmically, it's more interesting. He went to the store and purchased a box of Cheerios. He opened the box and ate them on the way home. It's much easier to read. It doesn't feel clunky. You got rid of all of those he's. That's a much better thing to do. Okay? But you still notice that they both start with he, and these are still similar sentence structure. He went somewhere and did something. He opened the box and did something. And so they're still similar. And so let me do one more thing. And you notice in both cases we started with he. We started with a pronoun. We started with a noun. And sometimes I like to start with a verb instead of a noun just to break up the rhythm and create something different that is easier for the reader to read. And so what I'll do is I'll take the second sentence and I'm going to reverse it. And I'm going to start with the verb instead of a noun. And so now let's put the last one up on top. Boop, there. He went to the store and purchased a box of Cheerios. Opening the box, comma, he ate them on the way home. So you see, I started with a noun and then had the verbs and predicates and stuff. I don't really know what all the parts of the sentences are called because I'm not an English teacher. Hats off to all you English teachers out there. Opening the box, he ate them on the way home. So I started with a verb this time, opening the box, comma, and then I told what they were doing in the sentence. And so that's a really good way to break up the rhythm of the sentences so it doesn't feel repetitive, and that can help you create a more interesting rhythm to your sentences. Okay, so let's look at another sentence here. This is a paragraph, and I'm going to stick it on here and read it to you, and hopefully you will see where the errors are. And the errors are going to be in sentence structuring and echoing, and there's an alliteration in there, which we don't like, and we'll see if you can spot those. So let me stick it up on there. Ready? Boop, there. Roland looked at the bridge. There was a huge number of scavengers on it. All of them wanted to destroy Roland. Roland picked up his warhammer. It was made of polished steel. It was heavy in his grip. Roland felt awkward with it in his hands. Roland stepped forward. He was scared. Sweat poured down his face. Roland brought the warhammer down on the wooden bridge. The wooden bridge broke. The pieces fell into the ravine. The scavengers on the bridge fell with the wooden planks. The scavengers shouted in fear. The scavengers disappeared in the mist. Okay, so obviously there's a ton of echoing in there, right? There's a lot of words that are used repeatedly. Roland, the name of my hero, is echoed. Scavengers are echoed. Bridge is echoed. There's a lot of echoing in there. And so those are things that you can look at. And there's also the sentence structure of noun, verb, something, noun, verb, something, noun, verb, something. So we probably want to switch some things around and start with a verb instead of starting with a noun to break up the feel of the sentences so it doesn't feel repetitive. Because repetition will make this reader become bored. You got to keep their interest. And one way to keep their interest is to look at the sentence structure. That's why we're talking about this. So let me talk about, let's see. We're going to go and I'm going to rewrite it. Oh, first of all, notice it's not really part of this lesson at all, but how much sensory input is in here? Does Roland see anything? Does he hear anything? Does he feel anything? Is there a smell? Is it hot or cold? Is it windy? I didn't mention anything about Roland's senses. And because of that, your reader isn't going to feel, they're going to feel like they're watching this on a TV and the adventure is flat. It's two-dimensional. If we stick those sensory things in there, then it's going to start feeling three-dimensional, it's going to feel real to them, and they're going to feel in their mind like they're in the adventure with Roland, and that's super important. And I say to a lot of young writers, they always got to put more sensory input into it. Certainly it's true, too much is bad. Too much of anything is bad. I say on the website, too much chocolate is bad. That's hard to imagine, but it is true. And too much sensory input can be bad as well. But most writers don't do enough, and so you need to do more. And when I finish a chapter, I typically will go back and rewrite it, and the first thing I scan for is I'll read it and look for the sensory input and see if I have anything in there. Usually I don't. And I go back and put it in and insert sentences describing the environment and describing what the hero feels or the villain feels so that the reader can imagine themselves being there. So here's the new sentence here. Ready? Boop. There we go. Roland glanced over his shoulder at the old rickety bridge. A huge group of scavengers charged across the wooden structure, the stench of their unclean bodies preceding their attack. It made the giant want to retch. Reaching down, Roland picked up his polished steel warhammer, the heavy weapon uncomfortable in his small hands. He glanced at the scavengers, trying to summon the last ounce of courage in his soul, but it seemed absent. He was terrified. The giant knew he couldn't possibly fight that many. A bead of sweat trickled down his forehead and managed to get past his thick eyebrows, seeping into the corner of his eye, stinging. Reaching up, he wiped away the sweat, then hefted the weapon into the air with both hands. With all his strength, Roland brought the hammer down on the bridge. The wood made a sickening crack as the massive weapon shattered the bridge, causing the planks to fall into the deep ravine. Scavengers screamed out in surprise and fear as the bridge beneath their feet plummeted, the wooden structure and the scavengers disappearing from sight. So I think you can see that's a much better paragraph than what we had before. You'll notice on the first bullet here, where it says, Roland glanced over his shoulder at the rickety bridge, kind of a long sentence, a huge group of scavengers charged across the wooden structure, comma, the stench of their unclean bodies preceding their attack. So that's two sort of compound, sort of long sentences, and then the third sentence, it made the giant want to retch. So I have long sentence, short sentence. And so what that does, long sentence, short sentence, is it draws attention to the short and it makes you notice it. So here I'm going to make the reader notice the giant wanted to retch. And then there's more. Reaching down, Roland picked up his steel warhammer. The weapon felt uncomfortable in his small hands, saying that he wasn't strong enough to handle the weapon. That's really important in this story. He glanced at the scavengers, trying to summon the last ounce of strength, but it seemed absent, ... He was terrified. So again, long sentence, ... short statement. So it draws attention to the fact that he was terrified. This makes your hero feel more real. You know, it can't be like Superman where he's never afraid and he's always, courageous. No one's like that. And so I showed that he's terrified, and that makes the reader empathize with him some more. So I hope you can see that I went through and I reversed the order of things. I created some compound sentences with commas to connect sentences together. This is a much better paragraph that I'd feel good about having in my story about Roland and the giants of the land of the Phoenix. And so this is probably more interesting. This takes a lot of practice on how to do it. And I've written probably 1.5 million words, and so I've started to get good at this. But it takes practice. When I first started writing, I didn't understand this, and nobody told me about it, and that's why I'm talking to you right now. So I think you need to look at this and think about it. I still notice when I look at these paragraphs wooden structure is used too many times, and bridge is probably used too many times. And what I would probably do when I go back and rewrite this is I would go back a few chapters and give this bridge a name. And I mentioned on the website the Bridge of Caracas. I have no idea who Caracas, I just made that up. But maybe Caracas would be a famous giant and there was a famous battle here. And so if I call it the Bridge of Caracas, now I can call it the wooden structure. I can call it Caracas's Bridge. I can call it the Bridge of Caracas. I have 3 ways I can refer to the bridge. And that helps eliminate any additional echoing that's present in there. And that's important. And so I need to do that. So remember changing the length of sentences, going long, long, short, or alternating long, short, because you want to break it up. But compound sentences are more natural for a reader to read. So have a comma in there and combine some sentences together. Don't make them really long, because then it's hard to read them. When you read them out loud, you should be able to read the sentences in one breath. If you can't, then it's too long. And you should absolutely read your stuff out loud to find the sentences that feel funny. And that will help you see where you need to break up the rhythm, or you need to change the sentence structure so that it's more interesting. So I hope this is helpful. I hope you guys, you people, the young writers out there, apply this into your writing, and I see more differences in sentence structure coming to me through my website. Thanks for watching. Keep writing. Watch out for creepers. Monkey Pants is out.